Game Pass started it all, and it's not going to end here. Indeed, we have another subscription service reportedly coming down the pipeline, and that is from SEGA. SEGA reportedly considering its own gaming subscription service. Can it rival Xbox? Can it rival Game Pass is the question. Can it rival EA in their subscription service? What about PlayStation in theirs? Just like the movie entertainment, the music entertainment industry at the moment, there is going to pop up a plethora of subscription service. Who is able to do it correctly? Who is able to sustain it long-term over time? The value for people to subscribe to? How does it work? And at what point does it become too fragmented is a big question. I'm not sure. First of all, if anyone could do it, Sega could do it. For a few reasons, in the same way that Nintendo could do it. The breadth of their catalog is huge. For those of you that don't realize, Sega owns everything under the sun. Sega has a huge catalog of games. The advantage that an Xbox has or a Game Pass has over a Sega, though, is there's a built-in player base there. For instance, there are Xbox players built in that will subscribe to Game Pass that gives you this jumpstart. Same with PS Plus. EA doesn't have that as much. Sega doesn't have that as much. Sega is kind of standalone. For instance, if you're a fan of Total Rome series, Sega publishes the Total Rome series. You're not necessarily a fan of their other titles. You know what I mean? Like there's segments there. So it's going to be interesting to see if this is true, how they do it. Do they do something that EA does? Remember, EA Access is a subscription service from EA that is partnered with Game Pass. So if you have Game Pass, you also get access to their subscription service as well. Does Sega do something like that? So it's like a mini subscription service within a subscription service that brings value to Game Pass. It potentially brings in over some hardcore Sega fans who want that deal. It gives Sega a platform to advertise their subscription service. Ubisoft never did that. Remember, Ubisoft also has a subscription service. That's right. I forgot about that. Are we too fragmented? Yeah, there's only a few people that can pull this off because it's going to cost big money to set up. And that's what we saw with Xbox and Game Pass and just the amount of money they shelled out to get Bethesda and Activision Blizzard. And we're not done. We're going to see them acquire more studios here in the future as well. So there's a few that could do it. Sega could. I don't know. Sega has, I'm telling you, just go look at their Wikipedia page. Their library is insane, but it takes more than the library. It's going to be interesting. Let's go over this news story today. Let's talk about it a little bit more. But before we do, don't forget that like button, subscribe to this channel. My name is X1 the Gamer. We talk about stories like this all the time right here. Hit that like button, subscribe. Also follow our podcast, X1 Daily Podcast, X1 Daily Podcast over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Leave us a 5-star rating and review. Share us with your friends. All right, let's go. This is purexbox.com. Let's read through this real quick. Just a short. Sega is reportedly considering its own gaming subscription service. Xbox Game Pass has been a huge success, Pure Xbox says, for Microsoft, and it's led to a bunch of other video game companies offering similar Netflix-style subscription services. It seems Sega might be next, with the company president Shuji Utsumi revealing to the BBC recently how the Japanese developer and publisher behind Sonic the Hedgehog finds subscription products very interesting and is evaluating some opportunities. We're thinking something and discussing something we cannot disclose right now. It's going to be interesting to see. I think it makes sense for them. Again, they've got a giant catalog. They've got huge IPs. There could be something there for them. There could be. Xbox paved the way for subscription gaming with Xbox Live, which led to Game Pass and companies like Sony, Nintendo, and EA and Ubisoft following their own services, offering access to games and much more. Microsoft's subscription service also happens to feature another company's subscription service in the form of EA Play. That's right, it's EA Play right now. My bad, I said EA Access. It started as EA Access. It became EA Play. It's EA Play. So if Sega wants to launch something similar, it could potentially become part of other tiers. That's exactly what me and Pure Xbox, we're on the same page right here. Yeah, I think probably for it to have success, it would need to team up with like a Nintendo or an Xbox, do something similar to what EA Play has done with Xbox and with Game Pass that gives you the platform, that gives you exposure, that gives you access to a player base that may not be there. Not that Sega doesn't have a huge player base amongst all their games, but I think it's fractional in the respect that if I play one game, I'm not necessarily interested in other games just because they're made by Sega. Whereas an Xbox, a Nintendo, a PlayStation kind of has more than just a game. It's got an ecosystem. And that's even Steam, I think, has an ecosystem with diehard fan base around it. And that's what Sega and EA, to be honest, is kind of missing that. And that's why I think EA Play teaming up with Game Pass is probably the smartest. Sega could do something similar that I think is very interesting. Is it too fragmented, though? This is just me speaking as an average consumer of subscription services. Yes, I think it is. I pay for what I want to watch at the time and then I cancel it. That's it. I don't see myself subscribing to more than 2 gaming subscriptions. Right now I'm subscribed to 1. And the only reason I say 2 is because GeForce Now. I would subscribe to GeForce Now. I think GeForce Now is totally worth the money. And you combine that with Game Pass and you're off to the races. You can then stream your games everywhere. I don't see myself subscribing. Indeed, I haven't to Ubisoft. Even if EA was separate, and I do play a lot of the EA games. If EA was separate outside of Game Pass, I would not. Game Pass has it for me. And I think that that's the problem with these publishers. Now, Sega has a huge catalog. Again, go look at everything they publish. It dwarfs EA even. And Ubisoft for sure. Ubisoft, I think, is in the weakest spot simply because they have no partnership. And I don't know. In my mind, they're just in the weakest spot there. So I don't know. I think there's only going to be room for like 3 or 4 different subscription services. And I think they're going to come from the Amazons of the world, for instance, the Apples of the world, the Microsofts of the world, even maybe the Sonys of the world, I think could have success with it. The Nintendos of the world could have success where it's an ecosystem sell. It's not a publisher sell. I think the publisher part makes it really difficult. But I don't know. I'm interested to see what Sega can do. Sega has had success in the space before, obviously, before just going third-party publisher. But we'll see. If anybody could do it, it could be them. I think they have a very close partnership with Game Pass, with Xbox right now. So I could totally see them going the way of an EA Play, tying it directly to Game Pass. Game Pass benefits, Sega benefits from that. And I think that that's mutually beneficial there. I wrote down 3 questions here. My first question, would you subscribe to a Sega exclusive gaming service if it meant losing access to Sega titles on other platforms? If I didn't have access to Sega, it depends what those, I would be on a case-by-case basis. And that's where I would probably just buy the individual title. And that, I think, is the difficulty in the sales point there. Whereas with Xbox, there's Xbox first parties. I'm already in their ecosystem. They're on Windows. It's different. Even Steam, it's a different. They have a platform that I'm intertwined with. There's more benefits than just getting the game. I think that that's the key to a subscription service is there's an ecosystem there. It's why I think Apple TV has had success. They have no business having success in the way they've had success compared to like a Netflix, for instance, but it's because the ecosystem. Even an Amazon has a pretty decent ecosystem there that there's more than just getting movies. There's an ecosystem there that is tied to it. So I don't know. I don't think I would subscribe to a Sega service out as a standalone. Now, it coming into Game Pass, yes. Let me ask you this. What if it comes into Game Pass, but it means paying $3 more a month on that? If it's every Sega game in the library, yeah, done. $3, absolute deal. What about $5? You probably. Once we get to that $25 mark, now we're hitting the high end of. I mean, the value is still there, no doubt, but we're starting to hit the high end of what people I think would be willing to pay for a monthly subscription service. Because remember, you're now not in that subscription service. You're now not just competing against other gaming subscription services. You're competing against all subscription services for multimedia. In other words, okay, I subscribe to Apple Music. I subscribe to Netflix. I've got Amazon Prime. I'm on HBO Max. Got Disney Plus. One of these have to give. I can't do all of them. And so that's going to be interesting to see. Next question, and this will be our last question here, because the third one I wrote was what Sega games. I mean, I talked about Total War. I would love to have Total War. Obviously, you've got then Sonic. They own all the Sonics, clearly. Sonic is a huge IP for them. Between the movies and the game. And Sonic Colors, by the way, very underrated game. very highly recommend some Sonic Colors. Got that. It was on Game Pass. I tried it out. This was months ago. Ended up buying it. Play with the kids. Love it. So how do you think Sega's potential subscription service would compare to existing ones like Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation Plus? So they clearly have the catalog, like I said. I think, though, the ecosystem is the question. What do they give me beyond just their games? What is the ecosystem like? I think ecosystem is the key to a subscription, to a successful subscription service. I could be wrong, though. It could be just all about, I don't know. No, I'm not wrong, though. I don't think it's just about the games. I think it's about the subscriptions or the ecosystem as well. I would love to know what you guys think, though. What am I right about? What am I wrong about? Do you think that Sega is going to pull the trigger and do this? Do you think they'll be successful if they do? Do you think their success hinders on partnering with a Xbox Game Pass or even a Nintendo or PS Plus, something like that? Or do you think they have what it takes to do a standalone? Would love to know your guys' thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. We're going to end it there today, everybody. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to this channel. My name is X1 the Gamer. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.